Welcome to True Crime Stories Uncovered. Today, we delve into a story that not only shocked a city, but shattered the lives of everyone involved. This is a tragic tale that weaves together the raw emotions of love, jealousy, and betrayal, emotions that can turn deadly when they spiral out of control. We're about to explore the life and untimely death of Ketora Denise Feazell, a 28-year-old model, entrepreneur, and dreamer who built a life on ambition, talent, and an unrelenting drive. She was an undeniable force in Las Vegas, a woman who lit up every room she entered. But on March 7, 2022, everything changed in the blink of an eye, and in that moment, the bright future she had planned was extinguished. Ketora's tragic end would not just be the result of a single moment of violence, it was the culmination of a dangerous web of lies, secrets, and unchecked emotions. It's the story of a woman who trusted the wrong person, a person who claimed to love her but was hiding a deadly secret. Stay with us as we unravel the shocking details of the murder that no one saw coming, the violent end of a woman whose life was filled with so much potential, and a love that was built on deception. This is not just another case. This is the story of Ketora Denise Feazell, and it's a story that will make you question the boundaries of trust, the cost of secrecy, and the terrifying consequences of a love triangle gone terribly wrong. Ketora Feazell was more than just a model, she was an entrepreneur, a creator, a woman whose dreams seemed limitless. At just 28, she had already built a name for herself in the fiercely competitive Las Vegas fashion industry. Her boutique, Ketora Echelon Clothing, became a symbol of her hard work and entrepreneurial spirit, attracting both clients and aspiring models who admired her vision. But behind the professional success, behind the beautiful photo shoots and the business meetings, was a woman who had no idea that her life was about to be taken in the most violent and devastating way. On March 7, 2022, Ketora's story would end in the driveway of the very man she trusted, a man who would soon betray her in the most horrific way imaginable. Her death would send shockwaves through the local community, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and broken hearts. Before we dive deeper into today's chilling case, we'd love for you to join our community. If you enjoy these stories, please take a second to subscribe. Subscribing ensures you never miss an update and helps our channel grow, allowing us to continue bringing you fresh, in-depth true crime stories every day. We value your thoughts, so feel free to share your views on this case in the comments below, and let us know where you're tuning in from. Your participation truly makes a difference in expanding this community and raising awareness. Now, let's continue with the story. At just 28 years old, Ketora Feazell had already accomplished more than most do in a lifetime. She wasn't just another pretty face in the modeling industry, she was a force to be reckoned with. With an undeniable presence and an entrepreneurial spirit, Ketora built a name for herself that many only dream of. She had the kind of beauty that seemed effortless, but it was her drive and determination that truly set her apart. By day, she was the proud owner of Ketora Echelon Clothing, her own boutique that quickly became a hotspot in Las Vegas. A business she built from the ground up with her own two hands. It wasn't just a store, it was a reflection of her passion, her creativity, and her refusal to settle for mediocrity. Each item in her boutique told a story, and Ketora's personal touch could be felt in every corner of her business. But it wasn't just her career that made Ketora special. She was a role model in the truest sense of the word. She didn't just rise to the top, she reached down to lift others with her. Mentoring young, aspiring models, Ketora gave them the advice and support they desperately needed in an industry that can be harsh and unforgiving. She was generous with her knowledge and her time, always looking out for those who were trying to make their own way. Her infectious laugh and magnetic personality lit up every room she entered. People were drawn to her, not just because she was beautiful, but because she had this unique ability to make you feel like you were the most important person in the room. There was no one else like Ketora Feazell. She was the kind of person who left an impression, someone you couldn't forget. To those who knew her, she was a bright star, a woman who had big dreams and an even bigger heart. But what makes her story all the more heartbreaking is that this vibrant, unstoppable woman had so much more to give. The world had barely seen what she was capable of, and yet, just as she was on the cusp of achieving everything she had worked for, her life was tragically cut short. It was at a bustling networking event in Las Vegas where Ketora first crossed paths with Marvin Simmons. In a room filled with entrepreneurs and movers and shakers, Marvin stood out. He was the man with the vision, the confidence, and the charm. To the outside world, he was a successful real estate investor, a man with multiple properties under his belt and big plans for the future. He appeared to have it all, an image of success that many admired and envied. But to Ketora, he seemed different from the others. Marvin was someone who understood her ambition, someone who didn't see her drive as a threat, but as something to be admired. In him, Ketora saw someone who respected her success, who wasn't intimidated by her achievements like so many others had been. It didn't take long before their connection deepened, and what began as a professional encounter quickly blossomed into something more. For months, their relationship seemed like the perfect love story. They shared public outings, romantic dinners, and spontaneous weekend getaways. They posted pictures of their adventures on social media, presenting an image of the perfect couple, a couple who had it all. The world saw them as a power duo, a beautiful and successful woman paired with a man who seemed equally driven. From the outside, everything appeared flawless. But beneath the glossy exterior, behind the smiles and the extravagant dates, something darker was beginning to take shape. While Ketora believed she had found someone who would support her dreams, Marvin was living a double life, a life she had yet to uncover. The charming, ambitious man she had fallen for wasn't quite the person he appeared to be. As the relationship progressed, subtle cracks began to appear in the facade Marvin had carefully built. Little things, unexplained absences, vague answers about his work, and a growing sense that Ketora wasn't seeing the whole picture, began to chip away at the illusion of perfection. Still, she held on, believing in the man who had made her feel special, who made her believe they were building something real. But what Ketora didn't know yet was that the foundation of their relationship was built on lies and secrets that would ultimately destroy everything they had. Behind Marvin's charm and those grand gestures of affection, things weren't as they seemed. To Ketora, he had been the perfect partner, always there with a kind word, a thoughtful gift, or an extravagant date. But as the months went by, the cracks in his carefully constructed facade began to show. Ketora started noticing things, small inconsistencies that she couldn't ignore. Marvin's once predictable schedule became erratic. He would disappear for days, giving vague explanations about urgent work commitments or last-minute business meetings. When she pressed him for more details, the answers never quite added up. He was elusive, always one step ahead, making her feel like she was chasing a ghost. His absences became more frequent, and when they did spend time together, he seemed distant, as though his mind was somewhere else entirely. There were also the moments when he refused to introduce her to the important people in his life, his friends, family, or colleagues. He'd dodge questions about his past, about the people who truly mattered to him. And yet, when Ketora tried to dig a little deeper, she was met with excuses and vague promises, "I'll introduce you soon," or "I'm just not ready for that yet." But the truth was, Marvin was never going to let her in. He was keeping her on the outside, protecting the dark side of his life that he didn't want her to discover. Little did Ketora know, the man she thought she was building a life with was living a double life. One life with her, the successful model, the ambitious entrepreneur, the woman he presented as his partner. And another with someone else, someone he'd been with long before he met Ketora. The mother of his child, a woman he had maintained a long-term, hidden relationship with, was a part of his life that Marvin kept meticulously concealed. The lies kept piling up, layer after layer, as Marvin struggled to juggle these two worlds. His manipulations, his deception, and his refusal to be honest were catching up with him. His two lives, his seemingly perfect romance with Ketora and his established relationship with the mother of his child, were becoming harder to manage, and the pressure was beginning to take its toll. He couldn't keep up the charade forever, and he knew it. But Ketora was still in the dark, still believing in the man she thought she knew. She had no idea that each passing day brought her closer to the painful truth that Marvin was hiding not just from her, but from everyone. And with every lie, every evasive answer, he was digging himself deeper into a hole that would soon be impossible to escape. March 2022. In an attempt to salvage their relationship after weeks of tension and emotional distance, Marvin invited Ketora on a romantic getaway to Miami. He painted it as a chance for the two of them to reconnect, a fresh start, a break from the growing friction between them. Ketora, hopeful and eager to rebuild what she thought was a loving partnership, agreed. She cleared her schedule, packed her bags, and prepared for a weekend that she thought would help them move past their issues. What she didn't know was that this trip, instead of bringing them closer, would become the breaking point. The tension that had been building for months between the two of them would finally come to a head, but not in the way she had anticipated. What was supposed to be a romantic getaway turned into a week of confrontation and discomfort. While on a yacht, an outing that should have been a peaceful moment of escape, the cracks in their relationship finally ruptured. The couple, once so full of passion and promise, found themselves at odds over something Ketora had discovered, a moment that would change everything. She had uncovered something on Marvin's phone. The details of what exactly she found are still unclear, but the impact of what she saw was undeniable. In that moment, Ketora realized the truth: Marvin had been hiding more than just his whereabouts. She was no longer in the dark. The lies, the secrecy, and the deception that had haunted their relationship were no longer a mystery. Ketora had seen the evidence, and now she knew exactly who Marvin really was. The man she thought she was building a future with was nothing more than a liar, playing her like a pawn in his twisted game. The discovery shattered the fragile trust that remained between them. It was no longer about saving the relationship, it was about confronting the truth. As the weekend drew to a close, Ketora couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The man she had loved, the man she had trusted, had betrayed her in the most gut-wrenching way. Returning early to Las Vegas, Ketora was resolute. She was done with the lies. She had seen enough. That night, she texted Marvin, demanding answers. She was no longer willing to live in uncertainty, no longer willing to let him manipulate her. This was it. She was ready to face the truth, to confront him about the secrets he had kept hidden. What followed would set the stage for the tragic events that were about to unfold. Ketora's message was clear: she was done, and she was ready to leave Marvin behind. But when she made her way to his house, she could have never anticipated just how far the situation would escalate. The confrontation that followed would change the course of her life, and Marvin's, forever. March 7, 2022, began like any other day. The weather was calm, the sun shining down on Las Vegas, and Ketora, still reeling from the weekend in Miami, was determined to confront the man who had shattered her trust. She had made up her mind. She was going to end things with Marvin once and for all, return the items from their trip, and walk away for good. But little did she know, the moment she stepped out of her car that afternoon would mark the last time she would ever walk this earth. As Ketora arrived at Marvin's house, her heart was heavy with the weight of everything she had learned, everything she had uncovered. She had come to settle the matter once and for all, to confront him about the lies, the deceit, and the double life he had been living. But when she knocked on the door, she wasn't prepared for the other woman to be there. The woman who had been in Marvin's life long before Ketora ever arrived, the mother of his child. The woman who, unbeknownst to Ketora, had been sharing Marvin's time, his attention, and his love all along. Ketora had no idea that she would walk into this unspoken conflict between two women who had been deceived by the same man. Marvin had warned his other girlfriend not to answer the door if Ketora showed up. But despite the tension that filled the air, Ketora's frustration grew. She knocked again, louder this time, demanding to be heard. The woman hesitated, unsure of what to do, and when the door was finally opened, the confrontation between the two women became inevitable. Words were exchanged, voices were raised, and what had once been a silent, simmering conflict exploded into an argument neither woman could control. Then, as if everything had spiraled out of control, Marvin arrived. He was there, but not with the intention of calming the storm. His presence only fueled the tension. The heated argument quickly escalated, and what had been a war of words soon turned into something much more terrifying. In a moment of pure, uncontrollable rage, Marvin pulled out a gun. The weapon, which had remained hidden until now, became the final instrument in a tragedy that no one could have predicted. In the blink of an eye, Marvin fired. 7 shots rang out, one after another. Ketora, who had walked into that driveway hoping for answers, was now lying motionless on the ground, the life slowly fading from her body. By the time paramedics arrived, it was too late. The woman who had so much potential, so many dreams left to chase, was gone. Her bright future, her unfulfilled ambitions, all extinguished in a moment of fury. And the man who had claimed to love her, the man she had trusted, was the one who had taken it all away. The love they had shared, the future she had imagined, was shattered. Her life, once full of promise, was erased by the very hands that should have protected her. When the police arrived, Marvin Simmons didn't resist. He stood silently near Ketora's lifeless body, the weapon still in his hand. There was no attempt to flee, no denial of what had happened. He simply surrendered. Inside the house, officers found his other girlfriend in a state of shock, still reeling from the realization that she had been living in the dark about Marvin's double life. She had no idea about Ketora, about the betrayal, and certainly not about the tragedy that had just unfolded. As the investigation began, the full extent of Marvin's lies came to light. Text messages, phone records, and security footage painted a clear picture of his deception. The evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. It wasn't just a crime of passion, it was a premeditated act driven by fear of exposure. Prosecutors quickly charged Marvin with first-degree murder. The case, already tragic, caught national attention, especially in Las Vegas, where Ketora had become a beloved figure in the modeling community. Friends and colleagues were left in shock, grappling with the loss of a woman they had admired and loved. The trial was swift, with the prosecution presenting a strong case that Marvin's actions were premeditated. His defense tried to argue emotional distress, but the jury wasn't convinced. After just a few hours of deliberation, Marvin was found guilty of first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. The judge's sentencing was clear: life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole in 20 years. Ketora's death left behind more than just unanswered questions, it created a lasting legacy. Her boutique stands as a tribute to her hard work, ambition, and vision. Friends, family, and colleagues continue to honor her memory, using her story to raise awareness about domestic violence and toxic relationships. Her parents have become outspoken advocates for relationship safety, speaking at schools and community events, urging others to recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Ketora Denise Feazell's story is one of dreams cut short and a life taken far too soon. But it also serves as a warning about the dangers of secrets, manipulation, and the destructive power of control. Let her story remind us to trust our instincts, recognize the warning signs, and seek help before it's too late. Ketora was more than just a victim, she was a talented, driven woman with a future ahead of her. Let's continue to raise our voices against the violence that so many face in silence. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell, so you never miss another true crime story like this one.